Welcome to the Biz Kidz podcast. I'm your host, JD Rabali, and this show is where young entrepreneurs, future leaders, and creative thinkers come, learn, grow, and get inspired. This podcast is powered by the Biz Kidz Hub, our hands-on training and resource center dedicated to helping kids and teens launch real businesses, develop their confidence, and turn big ideas into action. Whether you're starting out or already making sales, we're here to give you the tools, the tips, the stories that bring business to life. Each week, you'll hear from successful entrepreneurs, industry experts, and even fellow biz kids who are making waves with their ventures. So buckle up because the business journey starts here. Let's dive in. Good morning. This is JD with the Biz Kidz podcast. Thanks for joining us today. Today, have Harrison Ambs with us with Avenue Media, and we're going to be talking about AI and digital marketing. And so, as we always like to start off our interviews, is we like to hear your 60-second pitch. So, Harrison, give us a 60-second pitch of who you are and what you do.
Oh, thanks, JD. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, by the way. I'm super excited for this. This is going to be awesome. My name is Harrison Ambs. I am a serial entrepreneur, especially in the tech and AI space. Started a tech company in 2008 called Stickboy, which is still going on today. Then out of that, started an AI called Vita back in 2017. Grew an agency out of that, which we then merged and rebranded recently into Avenue Media. I do both of those, as well as a fractional growth advisory group for mid-sized businesses, venture capital, private equity, things like that. And so they'll have me come in. And really what I love doing is I love coming in. I love breaking a business apart, really understanding how the machinery inside it works. How do you make it work better? How do you have it grow faster? And then basically take a business from here to there. So that way they can hire more people, make more money, and be able to do more of what they do. That's great. That's my sort of elevator pitch.
Well, we always love a serial entrepreneur that has his fingers in all different types of things, and you kind of learning along the process as well.
Yes.
But we like to start off with going into our time machine. Let's go way back to when you were a kid.
Yes.
When you were a kid, were you looking at business ideas at that time? Were you looking at ways to have a side hustle to make some money?
That's funny you say it because not really, no. See, my grandfather, he is a classical businessman type of guy. I'm 42. So growing up when I was a kid, everybody that was in business idolized this guy named Jack Welch. Jack Welch was he sort of grew up and became the CEO of GE, and he was like the consummate businessman. So my grandfather was really like that kind of dude. He graduated college, got a job out of college at this company called Glidden Metals, entry level all the way to executive, retired at 65 with a gold Rolex. And so that's what I thought my career was going to be like. And then, 2001, I graduate high school, I then go to college, and then I turn out, wow, there's a lot of upheaval in the market, there's a lot of opportunity with tech, and that's just not how the world works. So it wasn't something I was interested in as a kid. It was something that I became interested in as I became an adult, because I realized that's where the potential is to be able to own something that's your own, be able to have something that you have control over, find the opportunities, and then ultimately, you don't need to have one job. You don't need to have one career. You can have a business that is an asset, a thing that generates, wealth and opportunity for you and others. So as a kid, no. I really wish I did know, because it's one of those things that, when I was even now, I still look back and I go, man, if I would have known this like 30 years ago, like when I was like 10, 12, 13, how much different will my life be like now? But hey, the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The second best time is now. So here we are.
Well, it's definitely a generational thing. So, as we were growing up, it was always taught to us as, hey, you go to college, you get a good job, you're with the company, they keep you in for your entire work life. You're there for 30, 40 years, sometimes 60 years. You're working for the pension, and that has all changed in our new economy, where that doesn't happen anymore. You don't go to work for a company and end up staying there 20, 30 years. It's very rare to see that anymore. And a lot of companies aren't even offering pensions. So you have to have a side hustle just to make ends meet sometimes, because what the job is paying is not always going to cover that. Now, back up a little bit. You didn't have that entrepreneur spirit as a kid. Were you into sports? What were you kind of doing as your childhood?
So yeah, I was into sports, played football, track, all that stuff. I liked business. I liked the idea of doing it, and I always wanted to. Basically, what I realized, JD, was I had that entrepreneurial spirit, but I didn't have anybody that kind of told me, "Hey, this is really interesting. You want to do this? Why don't you make it a job?" I mowed lawns myself as a kid. Like I always was a hustler. Like I always worked. I always did stuff, and I always looked at whatever I wanted to do. I wanted to be in charge of it. But I never had somebody that sat down and said, you can make your own business. Like that was like
So
for whatever reason there was that always be. I always tried to get that next promotion. I always tried to get that next leadership position. I always tried to be manager, area, whatever, of associate manager, whatever I could. I always tried to get that. But at no point did I have that like little jump of going, why don't I do it myself? It was that never happened. So like that entrepreneurial spirit, I had it. I just never had it to where it was like, $50 and you can register an LLC and you're off to the races. Like then I never had that sort of hurdle I jumped
so
over,
you
which is
said
weird,
you
right?
had a lawn mowing. You like did mowing. Did
Hmm.
you get paid for it?
Oh hell yeah, yeah, oh absolutely,
Okay.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mowed lawns around the neighborhood. I
See,
set
you
up
had that
packages and everything.
entrepreneurship. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, but then my grandfather always told me, hey, you got to go to college, you got to get a job and everything, and because that's what I was told. Like you said, it's a generational thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, looking back on it, it was there. I just never really fostered it until
So I started
recently.
with the lawn mowing as well, and I ended up having a lawn care company for 23 years.
There you
So that was
go.
one of my biggest ventures that because I mowed lawns as a kid. So
Yeah.
it worked out for me in the lawn business. Um, but what we look at is trying to get the kids to understand that there are a lot of things you're going to do as a kid, as a college student.
Mm,
You're going to have a side hustle to make some money to get things
mm,
that you want to do and done. So we're always looking for that. And I was in the same position. I never had anybody. Both my parents were educators. And so we didn't really have anybody like there to say, hey, this is how you start a business, how you run a business. And so that's exactly why we started the Biz Kids Hub is we
yeah.
want to give kids the opportunity to learn from local business people. Like, hey, how did you get through that process? How did you start thinking about ideas that helped you launch that idea? So how did you get the idea to launch into the digital marketing business? I know you said your first business was kind of off and running with a stick.
Stick
Stick
boy.
boy.
Custom
How did you come up
house
with that
running.
idea and what was that? What was that business idea?
Yeah, sure. So it was really it was my business partner, Rima Bhatia, and I. She was we were both working at a company. It was a design company out of Clearwater called Giant Octopus, and we just after hours were talking. And she's like, "I want to start a business. I want to start a design company." Basically, it's that desire to have something that's your own. And they're really and the thing is, there's when this thing really gets exciting, JD, is when you have that desire to have something that's your own and you look around and you don't see anybody else doing it. And you're like, I think there's potential there because then I know if I have it and I can go find those people, then I can be off to the races. And so that's what we decided to do with Stick Boy was there was nobody down here that was doing really digital design and custom software, which we kind of like fell into because nobody down here in Southwest Florida was doing it. And so we were like, wow, there's a lot of potential out here for us. And the more that we got out there, when we started the business, and the more that we started talking to people about what their needs were, especially in other companies, the more that we identified really those are, well, we could do that. That can't be that hard. Why don't we find somebody that can help us with that? And it was a lot of that stuff. And so the business kind of organically took shape in the early years because we were trying to do everything. Like it was just whatever paid the bills, man. Like I would mow lawns again if I had to. Because when you're in that early hungry stage, you're just trying to get the cash flow coming in until you find what that niche is. And that's what it was like with Stick Boy. And so yeah, so it does custom software, IT, and mobile apps is what it does now.
So we have a lot of students that listen to this, but we also have a lot of parents, and a lot of people really, if you're not into the business space,
Hmm.
don't even really understand what digital marketing is. So
Oh
kind of
sure.
back up for a step and just kind of
Yeah.
tell us what does that entail that have like a digital marketing company? What do you guys do?
So basically, the way I would say is that we announce your business to the world on anywhere that has a screen. We don't want to be on a bus stop. We don't want to be on a billboard. We don't want to be on a TV. We don't want to be on a radio. Anything that's like a phone, a screen, or anything like that. The way I like to describe it, JD, is a lot of people think of digital marketing and they think it's something that's really new. And it is. It's new from a technology standpoint. But marketing in general hasn't changed from the 50s. Madison Avenue up in New York, they figured this out. It's right message, right person, right time. And the only thing that digital does is gives us the fourth thing, which is now we can measure it. That's really it. Everything else is exactly the same. So, at least conceptually, the same. And so, what we're talking about with digital marketing, it's basically trying to find the type of people that need your services or your products that you do, and then using digital tools like Google Ads, Facebook, TikTok, email marketing, text messaging, digital radio, things like that, using the audience data that they have to find the right person, then take your business to that person with the right message to get them to go, oh, wow, I could use something like that, right? So, like a great example of this is, all right, so let's say you have a really, really high-end dog food that you want to offer, right? You make it in your kitchen, like you're like, look, I don't like dry dog food. I want this stuff that's freshly made. I figured out a way to package it, blah, blah, blah. That's your business, is really high-end dog food. Before, it would be like, all right, well, we're going to run a TV ad during the day when people are home, when homeowners are home, because we're thinking like, all right, they got nothing else to do during the day besides watch reruns of, soap operas. Most likely they have a dog sitting next to them, and then we're going to go. But that TV is also on in a hospital. It's on in a dentist office. It's on in the background. Who knows if they're paying attention to it? It could just be left on because the person went and watched the news and they forgot it was on. Now they're in the shower. Like, while it is true that it might work, it doesn't work that way. Digital lets us go, you know what? Actually, this type of business, this type of thing, it's going to be somebody that has discretionary income. Okay, so we're going to be talking about somebody that earns at least $80,000 to $90,000 a year. They have to be a dog owner, obviously, because it's dog food. And then what we want to do is we want to target people that are within a certain radius of us, because we don't want to be eaten alive by the shipping, right? Because we're going to have to get this stuff. We're going to have to get it out there. So it's like, all right, what we're going to do is we're going to go on social media. We're going to draw a circle in the platform and say, everybody that's in here that makes this much money, is between this age, they don't have kids, and they have a pet owner. Now I want to service them the ad. That's what digital lets us do. That's what it's about. So it's the same thing I just talked about with the TV ad. Like, we still have a commercial we're going to put up there showing somebody playing with the dog and giving them really good dog food, and they're having a great time in the backyard. That message is still there, except now we're better able to target the person, and we do it digitally. Does that make sense?
It absolutely. And so for a new person that's getting into business and they don't
Mhm.
have a lot of cash flow, what
Sure.
advice would you give them to say, hey, you need to start your own digital platform on
Mhm.
your social media, whatever it may be, to get your name out? Because right now they don't have the cash flow to hire an agency to help them.
Correct.
So what would you tell kids or students? Hey, kind of start thinking about this to get to that point where they want to hire a digital agency.
Sure, yeah, no problem. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to open up and have two tabs open. All right. One, on this tab, you're going to have some kind of AI, ChatGPT, Claude, whatever you want to do. You're going to have open in this tab. In this tab, you're going to open either Google Ads, Facebook Ads, something like that. You're going to set aside just a couple bucks. Okay, it doesn't have to be much. You can set aside $50. Like, it doesn't have to be a whole lot. And then in this tab, you are literally going to write into it like you would be talking to me. You're gonna say, this is what my business does, this is who I target, this is how I go after it, this is what my budget is, this is how much I make per sale. Help me run a Facebook ads campaign, assuming I don't know anything about the platform. Even tell me what buttons to click. And then what it's gonna do is it's gonna spit out an entire instruction manual about how to set up a campaign for you. And then you're going to open this thing up in Facebook, TikTok, whatever. I mean, you can do Google, but Google's expensive. So you can do this in Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, whatever. You're going to take that, you're going to follow the instructions in the platform, and then you're going to have it generate the creative for you. And then it'll be running a campaign. You will have a campaign running that's spending money getting your message out in front of your target audience. I'm going to tell you this, it's not going to be as efficient, and there's two downsides to this. One is it's not going to be as efficient as if my team did it, right? I mean, let's be honest. Like, we have video production capabilities. We can come out, we can shoot your product with your customer and really blow the doors off this. But there's an expense that comes with that. The other downside of it is you got to come up with a plan B. Like, okay, so this is working. How do I make it better? But that's what the AI is for, is you just go to it and you just run through it and ask it its questions, and then you use that into the platform. And then that's what you do. And it's not going to be fantastic, but it's going to get you started and it's going to get things going. So if you want to run your own digital marketing campaign, you can do that. The other thing I would do is the best thing that you can do when you're starting out is to leverage partnerships that are able to get you into places you need to be. Okay? So let's go back to the dog food thing, right?
Hmm.
So instead of me trying to find every other dog owner in the Southwest Florida area, like where I'm in Fort Myers, so it's in the Southwest Florida area, I know that pet groomers, mobile pet groomers, are also targeting those same people. But we don't compete. Like they groom the pet, I feed the pet. So what I would do is I would identify like Google and then start calling them and saying, hey, can we work out some kind of partnership here where when you do this kind of thing, I can give you free samples of my dog food for them to give to the owner? Or can I work your market somehow in order to do it? It increases the value that they have. And then what you're able to do is let them basically market you, especially in the beginning. Because the thing that you have in the beginning when you're running a business, when you don't have money, is you have time. And if you have time, that means you're able to do this kind of stuff a lot cheaper when it comes to that. But you're going to have to spend a lot of time to do it. What money buys you is that time. Oh, I can, instead of me calling 10, 15, 20 dog groomers or pet groomers to get in front of them, I can get in front of their audience by paying Meta, by paying TikTok, whatever, $5,000, $6,000 a month. I'm gonna get that same level of exposure, and now I'm saving myself time. That's really the trade-off that you're making there.
And we saw a great example of this at one of our Biz Kids markets recently. We
Yeah,
had a kid that was selling cookies. And he was next to a booth, a girl that was selling homemade chocolates. And so they actually created a partnership, saying, "Okay, what if we put our homemade chocolates in your cookies?" So he
there
would
you go.
buy the chocolates from her, put it in his. He could raise his price of his cookies because now he had homemade chocolates in his cookies, and it was a great way to kind of
There
make
you go.
a partnership in that. So that
There you
was a
go.
great illustration. Um, Now, using AI to get your business launched, again,
Hmm.
I know there's a lot of people that just are a little freaked out. I work with a lot of even businesses that have been in business for a long time, and they don't even know how to get onto their iPhone, or they don't want to get an iPhone. They want to have their flip phone, and they're just closed off. They're like, I am not going to use AI. What would you say to those people that are just like refusing to go down that path?
Okay.
Just okay.
I learned a long time ago that you can't account for human behavior and trying to change. Tigers don't change their stripes, like or zebras or whatever that phrase is. Yeah, it's ultimately it's like, look, I can spend my time, energy, and effort trying to convince somebody that they're doing the wrong thing and that this technology is coming. But ultimately, what I would tell them is like, okay, fine, then it's your competition that's going to be using it. And it's like you can see the efficiency gains, you can see the ROI, you can see what it's doing for it. In my opinion, there is a bit of a bubble. There is, just like with every new technology that came out, JD, you and I are old enough, you remember. You remember when social media hit. You remember when the internet, or when Web 2.0 hit. Now we're in Web 3.0, I think now. You remember when we each had this new transformative technology that came out, and it was going to change the world forever. And then you had those crazy early adopters that pushed all their chips in the table and said, this is going to be where we are. And then it's sort of like, boop, and then it kind of came down to reality. I think we're going to be going through that pretty soon, but you can't look around at the level of technology, the level of investment, and the level of integration that it has with what we do on a day-to-day basis and say, I don't need it. I mean, my phone, I mean, I use AI to text my wife from my car. Like that's where we're at now, is that type of thing. So yeah, I mean, adopting AI, like you don't have to, see, that's the problem. That's the tricky thing, isn't it? Right? Because this is a new technology, and we're in this. The way I give a lot of talks on this, and the way I like to describe it is we're in the wagons going west stage of this. We don't know what the landscape looks like. We haven't even seen the Rocky Mountains yet. Okay, we're like just over the Mississippi River, and we're just like, all right, we're gonna stake claims on this brand new technology that people are still trying to figure out what this thing can even do, let alone how it can help them. Okay. So you don't have to have all the answers. And I think that's the problem is we're kind of like creating these tools and then just sort of dumping them on people's desks saying, hey, here's this thing that kind of looks like a screwdriver that you've never seen before. Figure out how to build a house out of it. It's like, I don't even know what this thing is. I don't even know what it does. How am I supposed to do that? Right. So I'll tell you this. The one thing that I do a lot. So again, I created my own AI in 2017. It launched the digital marketing agency that became Avenue today. So I will tell you what I do a lot in AI is a lot of times I just ask it how to use it. I do it all the time. Like Claude is my favorite AI. I use it to bounce business ideas off of it all the time. And a lot of times what I do is I say, hey, how can I use you, or how can I use other AI technologies to figure this part out? So like one thing I wanted to do was I wanted to do some, this might be a little high level. Wanted to do some real quick market research on it was a venture that was put on my desk, and I was like, okay, this seems kind of interesting, but I don't understand the market enough, and I could spend hours and hours and hours of my own time trying to learn it. But then what I did is I just kind of took the business model, I plugged it into Claude, and I said, how can I use AI to analyze this business? And it gave me like, I want to say like six ideas on what to do with it. And you can literally ask it, okay, what prompts can you create with that? You can literally ask the tool how to use it. It seems weird to do that. Like I've never asked my drill how to use it, but that's kind of where it is with this tech. So even if you don't know, if you're like, I have a dog food. I have a high-end dog food brand and I want to market it. How could I use AI to do that? Literally just type that into it and see what it spits out. At the very least, it's going to get you past that white paper syndrome, that blank sheet of paper syndrome, where you're just staring at a blank sheet of paper and you don't know what to do. It at least gets you past that point and lets you kind of like, all right, give me something I can work at, you know?
What words worked well for me is I'm dyslexic, and so I could
There you
never
go.
write, spell, get it down. It took me hours to sit down and just write an email, and so AI has been incredibly helpful because I can just spit out like, hey, write an email about this topic, and it can make it look professional. It catches
Hmm.
all my typos, so it's worked out well for me. So.
Yeah.
But we're all at different stages, and like I said, we kind of have to learn it and figure it out. But I encourage that if you're getting into business now, you need to look at these
Yes.
tools because it makes your life so much easier to launch a business and have all these resources to do research and to kind of help you figure out what's going to be good and what's not. So, a lot of entrepreneurs like to tout all their success and like, this is what I've built, this is what I've done.
Hmm.
But we all know that entrepreneurship is all about the failures you have along the way and the lessons you learn. What
Hmm.
is one of the biggest lessons you've learned along the way that like you made a mistake and you're like, man, that really
Yeah.
hurt, but I learned the biggest lesson. And I'm glad I had that experience.
That's such a great question, JD. You're absolutely right. You listen to a lot of these podcasts and a lot of business owners, and it's almost here's 40 minutes for you to gas yourself up. And at the end of the day, you're like, come on, man, you know you messed up. What's your biggest mistake? Let me hear it, you know? No, I appreciate that. I got two. Um, One is there's this really great book. I can't remember the name of it. Or I can't remember who wrote it, but basically it was you'd love it actually. You know what I'll do? I'm gonna set a reminder for myself. I'm gonna when I get home, JD. Sorry, I don't want to derail the podcast like this. Send.
You
I have it sitting.
have AI send it to me.
Send book. It's like the weekend startup is what it's called. Over. It's sitting on my desk at home.
I believe I read
Um,
it. I've read it before. Yeah, it
It's
sounds
basically
fun
about
stuff.
starting up. It's basically creating a business over a weekend and how easy it is to just get started. Just do whatever you want, right?
Yeah.
Don't overthink it. That's my thing. I'm a classical overthinker. I love to. Okay, let me try and figure out the chessboard 18 moves down the line, right? So this book is amazing because it gets over one of my biggest things, which is there's this fear of I need to start it the right way in order for me to have success. I need to do my gym routine and I need to do all the what's the best possible gym routine that I can do? What's the best possible diet that I can do? I'm going to spend 2 months of doing research and work to try and figure that out. Meanwhile, you're still eating pizza and you're still sitting on the couch. Anybody who does this will tell you the best gym routine is whichever one gets you off the couch. What does it matter, right? Whichever diet routine is okay, whichever one you can stick with. If it's ice cream in the morning, but your macros are still fine at the end of the day, whatever. You're having ice cream in the morning. It's weird, but do it. At the end of the day, it's just getting started. You're going to find that there's going to be a paralysis by analysis. You're going to want to overthink it. You're going to want to look into it. You're going to want to research it. There's no better there's no better metric for success than your customer either buying it or telling you no. Nothing else matters. Nothing else matters. If you make custom cookies and everybody that eats them tells you it's too salty, it doesn't matter how much research you did on the recipe beforehand, your cookies are too salty. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that's hands down the one mistake I have. The second one, and this is one that I always struggle with, is it's different for me because I have a couple companies that have employees. Um, understanding that sometimes a bad apple ruins the batch and you got to be the one to get rid of it. There's a I don't know where a lot of your entrepreneurs, where a lot of the people that listen to this podcast are in their business life cycle. When you bring on people onto your business, there's this fantastic book called Good to Great. I advise anybody that's starting a business read it. It's amazing. There's a lot of case studies in it that are very dated. So JD, I don't know if you ever read it. It
I've
talks
read it.
about
Yeah.
Circuit City. Have you? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Have you read it?
Oh,
Okay.
yeah. We
Yeah.
actually studied it in my MBA program, and we had to like dive in and every
Yeah.
case study.
It's a fan. Yeah, I mean, some of them a little dated. Circuit City, not a whole lot to learn about now. Like there's some of these that don't really fit anymore. But there's a book on it that it talks about getting the right person, getting them on the bus, and then they'll find a seat. I'm a big believer when it comes to that. Depending on where you are with your life cycle, occasionally what's going to happen is you're going to get the wrong person on the bus, and you have to be able to trust your instincts that when they're the wrong person on the bus and you have to let them go, it's not necessarily a bad thing. What you're doing is you're freeing them to find a better position in a different company, and you're freeing your company to find a better resource for that position. There gets to be a point when you think you basically talk yourself into it's not really that bad. It's going to be such a nightmare having to hire. Letting go of this individual is going to be the worst. Like there's a lot of negativity that is going to cause you to not want to literally just grab it and go. Like at some point you got to pull the weed out of the ground, no matter how much it's going to hurt to do it. But you always feel better afterwards because you realized it was the right decision you should have made every time. And Jay, I hate that I've had to do it, and I hate how many times I've had to do it. But when I do, every time I keep thinking to myself, well, Jay, anytime you have to let somebody go, you know for a fact that you have the same two reactions, which is I feel so much better afterwards because this person's going to find a position that really does fit them better. And two, I should have done it earlier. And I don't know where a lot of your entrepreneurs are in their life cycle, but that is something you are going to have to come to terms with if you want to have a successful business.
And we saw that again with one of our companies. It was a sister team that was working together, and one of the
Hmm.
sisters had to fire the other sister and
Yep.
get rid of her in the company, and that can even be a little harder because it's family. So,
Yeah.
uh, well, to kind of your last tip and trick for us,
Yeah.
for a young entrepreneur, I don't care if it's a kid or a student or even just somebody that's just thinking, hey, I want to get into business. What would you say your top two tools for daily business interaction would be? It could be an AI tool, it can be
Yeah.
an app, whatever it may be. What would be your top two tools?
Claude, hands down. I'm in Claude every day.
And
I use it.
how do you spell that? Is it
I'm sorry, yeah, Claude
okay?
AI. It's by Anthropic.
Okay.
So Claude is very conversational, and that's how I process. I do it with the team here. Whenever I'm trying to work on a new idea or hammer something out for Avenue, I like to meet with people and talk it out. I talk to our clients, I talk to our team. It's how I process. Is by having conversation with people. It's how I frame the day. Claude works that same way. So I love it for that reason because it allows me to easily vet, process, and create ideas and bounce them off of something in a very natural format. So I love Claude when it comes to AI. The other tool that I would use is actually, you know what, is a really fun tool that not a lot of people know about. It's something called Follow Up Then. You should Google it. Basically, what it is it's free. You sign up for it, and basically what it does is I use it all the time. I've been using it for probably decades at this point. Basically, what it is, it's sort of like an email service. So you get it in, you get signed up for it as you put your email in, and then it has you copy these email addresses into your contacts list, and then you run it. And basically, what it lets you do is set automated follow-ups. So JD, let's say I was sending an email to you. I was like, oh, we're talking about something like this, and you're like, oh, a great example is that reminder that I just said, right?
Yeah.
So let's
Yeah.
say I send you that book, and I'm like, hey JD, here's that book. If it's all right, I'm gonna reach out to you in 2 weeks and just see how you like it. What I can do with follow up then is I write that email to you, and then in the BCC field, I type in 2 weeks at follow up then, and then I send the email, I archive it, I get it out of my mind. 2 weeks later, then the service follow up then basically boomerangs that email back to me, and it shows up in my inbox. So then I can reach out to you and follow up on, say, follow up. So
Yeah.
I use it all the time, not just for sales, but for stuff with the team. Client emails something, and the team says, yeah, we'll take care of it. We'll get it done by Friday. And I just want to have eyes on it. I just take that. I just forward it to follow up then. You can set it to days, times, weeks, months, whatever. It's fantastic for that type of thing because it lets you free up RAM from your brain of having to remember reminders. It's like, and it's really great when you're trying to sort of work a deal or, especially when you're like in those early networking stages with people where, oh, you met them at a networking thing, you got went out to coffee, and you don't want to just go out to coffee and just have it to where that's it. You want to have some kind of action that comes out of it. So I always like to send a quick email about what we talked about, and then I set a follow up to myself, which is like, hey, check in on this after 2 weeks. And so then after a week, 2 weeks, whatever I set it to, it shows up on my inbox, and then I can email that person immediately after and say, hey, JD, where's the SAB? How are we doing? That type of thing.
I needed that when I met you because I think we met at an event and we talked and I said, hey, why don't you be
Yep.
on the podcast? And then I forgot and I got busy and to do my own work. Hey, I think it's been 9 months or so at least now.
Thereabouts.
And
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, hey, I forgot to reach out to him. So I needed that. So
Yeah.
thank you for that tool. Well, I appreciate you coming on the podcast and kind of sharing some of your experiences with us. We'd love to have you on again to kind of talk a little bit more detail on other tools that we can use for our businesses
Yeah.
to get us started. So if you're willing to come back, we'll talk to you in a few months and then try to get you back on the show. But what advice? I know you have kids. You have 3 kids. You
Yes.
said.
Mhm.
What advice would you give parents about starting a business with your kids and kind of going through that process?
Make sure to, whatever you do in terms of drawing a line between business and family, always have the discipline to follow it. One of my favorite authors is this guy named Terry Pratchett, wrote Discworld, and in it he has this line in it where one of the characters is a police officer and he has a kid, and he at every day at I think it's like 6 p.m. reads the same book to his son, and he always tells himself like I could be working a case, I could not, it doesn't matter. 6 p.m. I read to my son, and the reason he says it is because a good excuse to not do something is a slippery slope to a bad excuse to not do something. With my kids, work-life balance. 5 o'clock, I'm done at the day. Whether or not like all the stuff I have on the side, it's 5 o'clock. I'm a dad now, and a good excuse to not to be at 5:30, 6, 7 o'clock in front of the at the dining room table in front of my kids or ignoring them to peck out an email. A good excuse to do that to chase down a deal or oh this is going to be a $50,000 whatever for us is a slippery slope to a bad excuse. So for me, and that's just a personal thing for me, feel confident, and if you have to, stick to your guns. If you set a wall, set the wall, don't deviate from it. So for my kids, they don't know how busy I am because my time for them is theirs as much as I can when it comes to it.
And did you get that advice from AI? Did you say how to
No,
be the best dad?
first off, I'm not the best dad. Okay, let's back that up. No, literally, it's from the book. I was reading it, and it was my kids were really young. I don't think Hallie was alive yet. I think Helen was like 4, Daniel was 2, and Hallie wasn't born yet. And it was well, it's a nonfiction book, and that's the thing about Pratchett. He's my favorite author, but you just come across some of those lines that just speak to you, and that one did, and I went, that's the kind of thing I want to do for my kids, is that. And so
That's awesome.
you try as hard as you can to make it happen, because a good excuse will lead to a bad excuse. It's still an excuse.
Well, if you're kind of encouraged to get your kids started in a business and want to kind of figure out how that process all works, follow us at bizkidzusa.org. We can get your kids connected and learn more about entrepreneurship and the business ideas, the things to do, the things not to do, and we kind of help them walk them through that process, have mentors
that's
along
awesome.
the way to help them. So thanks, Harrison, for being here today. Thanks for joining us here on the Biz Kidz podcast, and we'll see you next time.
Awesome. Thanks, JD.